Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome to all. Fantastic Monday evening to all of you guys. Hope y'all are doing fantastic. Welcome to Cliff Notes Live. What's today? March 8th? Yeah, you can see it on that ticker. I guess down there. March 8th. Hey, it's feeling like springtime down here in Texas. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but we had our little 1 week of winter. Now it's gone. It'll come back once more just to fool all the people who wanted to grow things a little bit early. But hey, welcome Monday evening to all of y'all. Hope y'all are doing fantastic. Let me go over to the comments. There's a bunch of y'all out here already. I'm incredibly honored to each and every one of you. From Amanda Lowe, who looks like she's the very first one that was out here. Angie, Joshy, Parker, Johnny, oh God, Chicky D, Johnny, Hostetler, Anthony, Mr. Buchanan, Amanda Lowe, Crossfire. Goes on it. Thank you guys. Y'all don't know how honored Ma out here as well. I see you. Absolutely. Y'all don't know how honored I am every time I come out here and I see y'all all sitting there and waiting for the show to start. So thank you. And Brian Hostutler, yes, indeed. I got a little story. This is indeed the Brady Bunch interior, and I got a little story to tell you about that, which we'll get into just a minute. Yeah, cross-track as well. It is here's a story about a man named Hogg who has a little connection to the Brady Bunch. Yeah, I had fun with it. All right, well, we'll talk about it a little bit. Let me start off the show before I forget about it and just give a big old SKD 143. I love my wife. I love my kids. And I love all the people that are out here watching this show and reality TV people in general. Such a fun community. So thank you. I do appreciate it. So what's going on today? Before we talk a little bit, we got some reality TV to talk about. I'll certainly cover that. Oh, let me go back to comments again. Certainly, we'll talk a little reality TV. I got all kinds of things to talk about. First of all, this day in history, as we wait for a few extra people to come in and all, this day in history. First of all, a lot of you probably know today is International Women's Day. I'm wearing purple in honor of that. Y'all realize it's only been 101 years, something like that, since women got the right to vote here in the United States. Up in Canada, about the same time period. I actually saw a thing for my Canadian, specifically Mr. Buchanan out there in Quebec. I saw that women get the right to vote in the province of Quebec until 1940 something. So it's amazing. Can y'all picture in this day and age telling such a large group, be it women, being any minorities, anyone, that you can't vote? It's just incredible the mind change that has occurred from back then to now, and we're so much better as a result of it. So certainly a fantastic day to celebrate. I honor my wife, I honor my mom, I honor my daughter. I see all of the things that they have capabilities of that they wouldn't have had a chance at in the way back. So cheers to International Women's Day. Fantastic celebration. Now, with that in mind, what else is going on? Today is National Proofreading Day. One or two things. It's like, I'd probably do better if I did more proofreading. It's Winnie the Pooh's birthday, Ma. All right, I didn't know that. Oh, is it not E.L. Stein? Who wrote Winnie Pooh? I don't remember that. Ovi used to always joke that Winnie the Pooh was his favorite, and that people said that he and Winnie the Pooh reminded each other. I love Winnie the Pooh. I grew up watching Winnie the Pooh as a kid, and there's so many iconic characters from that series. You think about Winnie the Pooh, everyone knows. Eeyore. I talk about Eeyore. Oh, it's a sad day. Blah blah blah. I don't know about some of y'all that have few less years than I do, but I grew up on Winnie the Pooh and the 100 Acres Wood and loved every bit of it. All right, so we've got that today. Now tomorrow we got a couple of. There wasn't as much going on this week as others. Tomorrow, I think we've got National Barbie Day. I'm the kind. I grew up with G.I. Joe's, Evel Knievel. I had my action figures. It's funny, yeah, you couldn't call them dolls and have boys want to play with them. You had to call them action figures. But we had a blast. My brother and I used to play G.I. Joe all the time. We had my little brother and younger brothers had the small G.I. Joes, so, this big or so. When I was a kid, we had the full size 7-inch tall G.I. Joe with the fuzzy hair and everything else, and the Jeeps and everything that went along with it. Just loved our deals. Now I also had Evel Knievel, and he was He was so big back there. For those of you who don't know, he's the one that did all the motorcycle jumps and everything. We used to have the Evil Knievel and the little motorcycle that you could rev up and cause it to go down the hallway and jump into vases and everything. Vases, my mom always said, don't play in the house, right? We didn't play ball in the house. We played Evil Knievel in the house. So we did have that. All right, now getting to the A.A. Milne. I thought of something like that that wrote Winnie the Pooh. There you go. Thank you very much. Parker and Andy as well. Thank y'all for that. Yeah, I think I know who said R.L. Stine wrote Goosebumps. I knew he was an author. I just had the wrong one. R.L. Stine and Winnie the Pooh, slightly different kind of authors, but my kids loved the Goosebumps series, the TV show and the books as well. We've still got a bunch of those around the house somewhere. All right, so let's see. The big deal that's going on today. I guess that's a relative term, but the reason for the background as well. Today in 1974, a sad day for kids of the 70s. The very last episode of the Brady Bunch aired on this day in 1974. Can you believe it? What's that? 47 years ago. But I remember it like it was yesterday. I was a huge fan of the Brady Bunch. I loved the show. I could relate to it. I had 4 kids in our family, and back when Brady Bunch finished up, there were only 2 of us, so we didn't have the huge family that Brady Bunch did, but loved the Brady Bunch. It's just an iconic part. That, Leave It to Beaver, Gilligan's Island, all the kids shows we watched. But last episode of this day in 1974, and with that in mind, as I said, I got a little story for you. All right, let's see. Let me look at this first. Parker says Mario Day is Wednesday, March 10th. Yeah, I saw that, and March 10th is MAR10. Okay, maybe that's why Mario Day. I played Mario. I was in high school when we played Donkey Kong, and then the Nintendo. We played the Mario Brothers and all that. So I played a few hours. I put a few hours of screen time playing different Mario games. So yeah, happy Mario Day to you. If your name is Mario, you got a day named right after you. Isn't that pretty cool? I don't think there's a National Cliff Day, but maybe I need to research that. All right. So anyway, all right, now going back to my story in the Brady Bunch. I don't know if y'all know this, but obviously I'm a Big Brother fan, hence the reason I tried out. But a huge Big Brother fan. The job I had before I went into the Big Brother house was doing sales for the oil field. Well, California has oil, even though they don't like oil, and they can't stand us in the oil and gas industry, but they still have oil. So I had to fly out to Los Angeles to have some meetings up in Bakersfield, a couple hours north of LA. And when I landed, there's 2 things I did before I went up to my meetings. One is I drove to the CBS production lot in Burbank, and I found the Big Brother house. Now I wasn't allowed in. Yeah, they weren't gonna let me in. They still won't let me in, officially or otherwise. But I parked outside the lot where I could kind of see across the concrete river, and I could look at the outside of the Big Brother house. And I took a bunch of pictures. This is the summer, so they actually were inside the house. And I sent a thing back to my wife. I said, "Can you believe it? I'm right outside the house, and they're just inside." Who would have thought? Just a year later, they'd be leading me into that house, and I'd be living there all summer long for 3.5 months. Hey, it's amazing how life can treat you. You never know what twists and turns it's going to take. But I saw the Big Brother house. The other thing I did while I was in Los Angeles, did I go see fancy mansions and look for the Kardashian estate and things like that? Nah, not me, not Boss Hogg. Now I drove over the hills and found in the other part of Burbank, I found the Brady Bunch house. And I went by and I took some pictures of the Brady Bunch house because that was the other thing that I thought was pretty cool. Now, who knows? They probably called the police and said, "Oh, there's some guy that's just driving back and forth in front of the house." They're probably used to it. Maybe not. There's probably not a lot of people that go by the Brady Bunch house 40-something years later. But I drove by the Brady Bunch house, and yeah, the Big Brother house was a highlight. But the Brady Bunch house was not much further behind it. That's my understanding. The inside of the house didn't look anything like this. Completely different. But the outside, just the way you always saw it on the start of dun, da, 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 just brought back all kinds of pleasant memories. And all I could think is, the Brady Bunch house is cool, but I wonder what the people on either side of that house thought. They just lived there, regular old people. And they probably have goofballs like me driving by all the time, taking pictures, and they probably just want to say, it's just a house. They don't actually live in here. You aren't going to find Greg up in the attic or anywhere else. Alice is no longer in the kitchen. So why are you here? But it's still cool to see. So there's my story. Brady Bunch house and Big Brother house were the two biggies I saw when I was in Los Angeles. All right, let's see. Let me look through the comments. Tim Pipe, are you watching Big Brother Canada 9 at all? Well, yes, indeed. In fact, I was going to talk about it, and I figured I'd put out a little ground rules for you guys and me as well. I am watching the episodes. I was going to watch the live feeds, but I haven't figured out a good way to do it just yet. You got to get VPNs and do a lot of things that I just haven't had a chance to do. So I have not watched the live feeds, but I have read some of the live feeds, some of the things that are happening. But I figured out when I talk about on Mondays, the show and everything else, I made a decision. I'm going to talk about what we've seen on the actual episodes that have premiered on global TV and all that. But I'm not going to talk about things that have happened that haven't been shown on the episodes. For example, nominations have already occurred. A veto competition's already occurred. There's some things that have happened, but I'm not going to talk about those in here. So if you're only watching the episodes, but not the live feeds, then it's okay. There's not going to be any spoilers for you guys. If you're watching live feeds, you're a little ahead of other people in here, but please don't spoil too much for those who maybe are trying to keep up with the episodes, because it's so much harder to watch here in the US. I don't know why. Heck, if they let us sign up as a subscription, I'd pay the same way I pay for all access down here to watch the live feeds up in Canada as well. But they won't let us do it. Now, here's the other thing. And I'm already going off on a tangent. I see a couple of comments I want to talk on, but I'll do this first. In the Big Brother house in our season, I think I've talked about this before, there was no curfew. We went to bed 4 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the morning. Up there, they put everyone to sleep. They have a curfew for the folks. So if you're watching live feeds at 3 o'clock in the morning, there isn't anything to see as far as I know. It's strictly a daytime. They force everyone to sleep a certain time period. That would have worked okay for me. I wouldn't have had any issue with that because it was hard staying up and you feel obligated to stay up because otherwise you're missing out on discussions and strategies and everything else. So Big Brother Canada, a little different than the US. As far as the show itself, I don't know about y'all. Are y'all watching? I don't know how many out here watching. I know a few of y'all, y'all have got to be, but a few others maybe not. All right, Brian saying, how'd you watch the episode without VPN? I don't think it's illegal to do it, but just in case there's some ambiguity, I'll just say search Google. I think Hamster Watch is one of the places that may have some ways to watch it, but there's some sites you can go out to and watch it. I didn't watch it live. I watched it a few hours afterwards, after the fact. Heck, you can probably find it here on YouTube as well. But now there's places that show it after the fact. So do some Google searching and you'll find that. But yeah, very interesting. They picked teams, which, Lord, I wish they had picked teams in my season because we had that big alliance, and then we had the rest of us, the outsiders, trying to survive, and that, I guess it worked out. I mean, I survived. I survived a lot longer than a lot of people expected. But if we come into our house and had two people as captains who had then taken turns picking teams, you would have had two fairly balanced teams. And maybe, I don't know, it would have been interesting to see what would happen differently as opposed to letting alliances just naturally form. So Canada did that a little bit differently. Picked two captains right off the bat. The Canadian public picked them. So it's kind of outside the hands of the people inside the house to do that. And then we saw the first eviction, and that's already happened. So I feel comfortable talking about that. If you don't know yet, close your ears for just a second. But now they sent home Julie Vu, who I'm a little surprised. I actually thought she was going to last a little bit longer. But there's two things I think that really hurt her. One, she couldn't keep her mouth closed. She was talking to too many people and making too many people nervous that she couldn't keep secrets. I think she played a little too hard and a little too fast at the beginning of the season. She may have done a little bit like Ovi did, where Ovi was kind of trying to make so many partnerships and alliances that everyone got a little bit nervous. I didn't. I would have loved to have him as he was in the alliance, and he would have been ride and die right there with Nicole and I. But I think she played a little bit harder, a little too fast for the game. But here's the other thing I haven't heard anyone talk about, but I wonder about this. Apparently, Julie Vu has a huge following, Instagram, Twitter, both. I'm not sure, but 100,000 plus followers and all that. If I was in the house, I would not want to keep someone in the house that I felt that they had a huge social following outside the game, especially when the very first thing that happened on Big Brother Canada is the Canadian public picked two people who had power in terms of captains. Once that happened, I would be worried that they were going to do that more going down the road, let Canada pick punishments, things like that. You know, in our season, we had the America's Prankster, we had the field camp where the American public was voting on people. And I was worried about Sis. I figured Sis must have had a huge following outside the Big Brother house. And so I was always worried that her followers were going to skew the results to help her out as much as possible. So I always wonder if that maybe affected Julie and making it a little bit easier to justify sending her out of the house first just because she had such a huge following. Don't know. It could be something completely different, but just a thought that crossed my mind when I saw her go because I wasn't expecting it. But now it's been fun so far, the couple of episodes I've seen. I guess there's another one tonight that I'll catch right after the show. I love the house. I think it's a cool house. We talked about the ball pit last week, and that's a fun have-not room. Maybe not for sleeping, but from watching it on TV and all of that, that would be pretty fun. All right, now getting to some of the comments. Crosstack mentions there was a show recently where they bought the Brady house and they rebuilt it to look like the show. Yeah, that was pretty cool. HGTV did that. I think they brought in a bunch of the actors and actresses from the show and did it. I have not watched that show. I bet I could find it out there somewhere. But I've seen some of the before and after that they did it. God, they paid a fortune for that house. Maybe that's just because it's California, but they paid millions of dollars for that Brady Bunch house. And now what do you do with it? I'm sure someone has probably bought it and thinks it's the most cool thing in the world, other than only having one bathroom for 14 people or whatever that live in there. Just 14, you got the 6 kids, you got mom and dad, you got Alice, and you can't forget about Oliver as well, right? So was it 10 people? I guess 10 people. But then all those kids, they're all in their 40s, 50s. They may have, it's a Brady Bunch. They probably brought their spouses and their kids to stay with them as well. So that Brady Bunch house may be there may be 40 people living in there for all I know. But yeah, they paid a fortune for the house. But now I have not seen that show yet, but add it to the list. One more thing that I need to look at. Anthony saying I had one of those 11.5-inch GI Joes. They're cool. Some of them you could pull a string in their back and they would talk as well. That was the high-end GI Joes. Those were cool. There was a level of GI Joe. You had the ones that had just a painted-on plastic hair. They were okay. Those were the main ones. Then you had the premium ones. They had the fuzzy hair, which was pretty cool. And if you're really into it, you had the ones you could pull a string and they talk as well. So that's even in the world of toys, you got your different levels of toys and all that. But I loved them all. National Cliff Day is whenever Cliff's birthday is, sometime in April. Hey, that works for me. April 24th, for anyone who's interested. All right. Maybe we'll just declare it right here. Maybe we'll get a trend going, and we'll do that. And then Cliff Robertson, the basketball player, will send me thanks, and everyone will think it's for him. But that's all right. All right, Chickadee, Mulholland Drive is an awesome drive through the mountains in LA. Yes, it was so cool. All right, another story before we move on to other things. After the season was over, after finale night and all, the next night we had a big after hours party. I guess it wasn't after the big party the night before at some place downtown LA, and most of the cast showed up. We all hung out there and got a chance to talk and meet a lot of fans and all, which was incredibly cool. But after that was over, then a whole lot of people went to Vegas to hang out and party up there and everything. And I thought about doing it. I talked to Ovi and everything. And we talked about doing it. And then I said, I've got my family here, my mom and my wife and my kids and their boyfriend, girlfriend. Everyone came out there, which was so cool. When I knew they were all there, I missed them so much. To see them right after the finale was fantastic. But because of that, I said, I'm not going to Vegas. I'm going to sit here and do the LA stuff with the family. So we went on Hollywood Boulevard and saw Grumman's Chinese. So, all the things that tourists do, and I loved every bit of it. But we also did drive up into Mulholland, up into those mountains, and stopped at a few of the oversight peaks to take pictures and all. And That's cool. That was really, you get such a cool view of Los Angeles from up there in the mountains and all of that. All right, so let's see. Let me look through here, guys, as we're doing it. Angie, Julie behaved like a character and came across a bit fake. You think? Yeah, that may be possible. She was certainly. I know why she was picked. She was certainly over the top. Her, as she went, she said something about, the queen doesn't talk to commoners and all that. She was definitely a bit of a character, and so yeah, maybe that was part of it as well. Again, some people come in. I don't know, some people come in just playing hard. Some people come in very much wanting to play the character, and it's funny because on the show, I mean, we all came in, I think, knowing that we were slotted for different things. That she probably knew that she was expected to play a bit over the top and be a little bit loud and the way she, yeah, you're right, Angie. She was very much over the top, and so maybe she came in thinking that's what's expected. So I'm going to try to follow through, and I'm going to, again, she had a lot of people who already had expectations based on the followers and everything else she had. So maybe that was part of it. Slightly different, but I don't know if any of y'all keep up with Big Brother Brazil. But Big Brother Brazil had a character who came in, and I think she was somewhat of a hip hop star that had some fame and celebrity before she went into the house. She had sung a song at kind of the halftime, I think, of their big national soccer cup, kind of our version of the Super Bowl. And Big Brother Brazil had 20 people competing, 10 people who were celebrities, 10 people who were just regular people. So she went in with a lot of fame already, but she really got called out for some poor behavior inside the house, calling out people for a lot of different things. I don't speak, no follow Portuguese. I don't speak Portuguese, so I can't follow everything, but she did a lot of things. She made fun of the people that live in Northeast Brazil and some other things that just made a lot of people mad at her, to the point that when it came down to the evictions in Brazil, it's not the house guests that vote people out. Their version of the game is different. It's the public. I think the house guests, I guess, put 2 people up for nomination, and then the viewing public decides who to go home. And so she was on the block, and they voted. She got voted out with like a 99.4% vote. I mean, overwhelming. And they said when she was voted out of the house, they had parties in the streets, people running out, celebrating, setting off fireworks. It's such a huge show down there, and everyone was so focused on wanting her out of the house. That's brutal. Can you imagine being in a house for however long she was there? And maybe she knew a little bit of what was up. Maybe not. I don't know. But can you imagine coming out of the house and finding out that people didn't just vote to send you out? They voted overwhelmingly. They set off fireworks cheering that you were gone. That's hard. And she was a celebrity. She may not be now. I've heard she's on a little bit of a redemption tour, trying to apologize everywhere she goes and everything. But that's tough. That's incredibly tough. So a complete sidetrack. I'd love to watch the Big Brother Brazil because it looks like a lot of fun. And some of the competitions, everything else they've done have been fantastic. But again, it's hard when you don't speak Portuguese. So I don't know. Ma saying, how many Big Brothers are there and how many have you seen? And Ma, I don't even know. There are so many of them. The ones I've seen, Big Brother Canada, Big Brother Australia, obviously Big Brother US. I've also seen Big Brother UK and their celebrity version over there as well. But I also know that Israel, Nigeria, I think actually it's not Nigeria, it's like all of Western Africa. They have contestants from a whole bunch of different countries that all come together. Italy, Croatia, the Philippines, it just goes on. Brazil. Jessica talked about while we were in the house that her family wasn't really familiar with Big Brother US. They're from Puerto Rico, and still her parents still live there. They didn't watch Big Brother US. They watched El Gran Hermoso, which is the Big Brother in Spanish, I think was filmed in Mexico. And she said her family was very worried because I guess the Mexican version of Big Brother is a little more scandalous, a little more edgy than even the Big Brother US. There's a lot more hooking up. There's a lot more risque activity that goes on. And Jessica said they were really worried when she found out that she was going on this show because they were thinking of the way it's done in Mexico as opposed to our version, which isn't that much more laid back, but a little bit more. Lawrence saying, do you speak Portuguese? No, Lawrence, I don't. I've been to Brazil many a times. I speak a little bit. Portuguese and Spanish are somewhat similar. And so I don't speak the Spanish as much as I used to, but when I was going down to South America a lot, I wasn't fluent, but I was pretty close. And so whenever I'd go to Brazil, I spoke enough Spanish that most times I could use those words and people would understand. Just a pidgin, I'd throw in a little Spanish, a little Portuguese that I did know. I mean, I know a few words, obrigado and no falo, and cachaça is a rum drink, or sugarcane drink that's amazing in there. Capanilla, you make a drink. I know all the important stuff, but no, I don't speak Portuguese, but if I see Portuguese written, I can usually read enough, understand. It's close enough to Spanish. I can usually see what's going on and follow along. So I read it a little bit better than write it. But yeah, I'd love to. I don't know. All right. Why is there a shower in the backyard? Bob is asking. All right, Bob. Let me get caught up in these comments. All right, Bob, you're talking about in the Big Brother USA house, I assume. The reason there's a shower in the backyard is strictly because of the swimming pool. I assume it is. And it's just back there because one of the rules is that before we got into the swimming pool, we were supposed to wash off, just like you do at swimming pools, in most places. You're supposed to rinse off first, so any sweat, suntan lotion, things like that, you don't get it all in the pool. So we would always try to shower first and do that. And yeah, some have not used it, I guess. I wouldn't have not, so I can't say. But that water in the house was so cold, so I can see that at least on the days that the backyard was open, you could go back there. Now that water was a little cold too, but at least you had the heat. And you talk about hot. That grass that we had in the backyard, which was not grass, artificial turf, and it was the hottest. It ramped up the temperature in that backyard by 10, 20 degrees at least. It just was brutal during when the sun was overhead, which made it tough. That very last veto competition, Win It and You're In It, the one with the giant slingshots and knocking down pictures and all of that, though I had such a hard time with. I think I may have said this before, but we just randomly drew to see who went when in that competition. Nicole went first, I went second, then Holly, and then Mickey. By the time I got out there, it was like 2:30 in the afternoon. The sun is just almost directly overhead. It's hot to begin with. Those big walls in the backyard keep any breeze from coming in on us. And then that artificial turf, it'd be like being on the Indy 500 racetrack or something in the middle of the day. It just ramped up the temperature another 20 degrees. It's probably 120 out there when I was doing that competition. And I felt every bit of, it was miserable. I had so much heat. It was so hot. And I'm a Texas boy. I'm used to the heat, but that was a difficult day doing that veto competition. So yeah, even though the water's cold on that shower, you can take a shower there and the heat will keep you warm up pretty quick. Yeah, Ma, thank you. Big Brother Italy and the Big Brother Netherlands are the first ever. I guess the Netherlands are probably the very first end-of-all shine to that fact. The Netherlands are responsible not only for Big Brother, but they also did the first type of show, kind of like Survivor. And I don't know that they call it Survivor. I don't know how much similarity there is between the two, but that Netherlands are big into the reality show. They got on the swing of reality TV even before the rest of the world picked it up. So, all right, let me look at some of the comments, and I've got a few stories I can tell you as well. Let's see. Let's see. The Big Brother has Mulholland Drive. I watched Mulholland Drive. I haven't watched that in a long time, Angie. I need to watch it again. Denor, whatever. A long time since that. Couldn't find National Cliff Day. Well, we're going to just make our own. How about that? As a live feeder up there, most of the U.S. updaters are using BMX to watch a BB Canada live feeds. All right, Angie. Yeah, that's one of the ones that they've done it. But again, you've got to have VPN, which may not be that big a deal to have. I know there's every time I go online, it seems like there's nothing but advertisements for VPNs and all that, but I just haven't quite done yet. Our Cindy saying, I met Bobby Brady at a convention in New Jersey. That's pretty cool. I haven't met any of the Brady family yet. I did meet Tony Dow, who was Wally from Leave It to Beaver. I met him in downtown Dallas once and was incredibly excited and went up and talked to him for just a second. I think he was a little less interested in meeting me than I was in meeting. This was before my Big Brother days. I was just a kid back then. Still thought it was pretty cool. But I haven't met any of the Brady kids, so you got one up me on that, Cindy. Yeah, Ma, do some searching because I wish it was easier to watch here in the U.S., and I'm not sure why I didn't, but I think it's got something to do with broadcast rights and global TV and how they do it. I don't know. All right, let's see. Glad that the indigenous person and the oldest person were chosen as captains. Yeah, Angie, and it makes me think if, hey, I was trying to think, if they had done that inside the Big Brother house for my season, who would, of my Big Brother 21 cast, who would have been picked as captains? And indigenous people, oldest person, makes me think maybe me, maybe Jessica. I don't know. I don't know how that would have worked, but it would have been cool to have some power right off the bat. But sadly, that wasn't the case for Jessica or myself, either one. And you got to think, if they hadn't picked teams and picked team captains up there, if they'd been like our season, Jessica and I were both thrown on the block early, and I can certainly see the two of them being thrown on the block earlier as well. So yeah, every season, expect and unexpect. Every season is a little bit different. I don't have a problem with the twist of having teams and having team captains and all of that. The thing that bothers me a little bit, I hate to see anyone evicted too quickly. And Angie went home pretty quick. I would love to see, we were banished on day one. I would love to see a situation where no one goes home for the first 2 weeks. And the live feeders get to see at least a week of a person interacting. Everyone gets to learn everything they can about each other, so that you aren't making evictions based strictly on stereotypes or preconceptions about how a person is or how they might be and all of that. And so I wish Julie had a little bit more time in the house to either save herself or maybe just sink that much further down, one or the other. But at least she would have had a little bit more authorship and a little bit more control over the situation, which maybe she did anyway. As you said, Angie, she's probably playing a little over top anyway. But I don't have a problem with the twist. I do wish everyone could stay in there for a little bit longer to get to know each other, and it just makes it easier to find out who the true person is and let everyone play the game. All right, let's see. BB Canada, Odyssey's better than the Big Brother house. I'm not sure. What's Odyssey, Ma? I'm not sure I know that one. Do y'all remember a show called Glass House? It was a knockoff on Big Brother. I think it was only one season, but I heard the little thing they may be bringing that back as well. All right. Oh, there. Let's see. God, I'm so far behind on the comments, guys, because I'm just sitting there rambling on. I'm a rambling man. Cliff Notes on a Saturday. I hadn't planned on it unless you're watching some different Cliff Notes. If you're watching Cliff Notes on a Saturday, even if he's wearing a cowboy hat, it ain't me. Have I done one Saturday? I don't think so. So I hope you're watching a repeat, or else let me know, and we'll track down that Cliff imposter. I may not be mad. I guess that'd be a heck of a compliment, but we'll see. Let's see. To be honest, we need more people like Cliff, Julian, Devon, and Nicole, in my opinion. All great personalities. Well, thank you, Joshy P. I appreciate that. There's a lot of strong personalities in the house for a lot of different reasons, right? I mean, that's what I've told a lot of people, and for all of you watching, if you want to try it for Big Brother, you don't have to be the most funny person. You don't have to be the most villainous person. You don't have to be the most sarcastic person. But whatever you do, exaggerate it, emphasize it. That's a better word. Figure out what makes you stand out from everyone else and emphasize it, because Big Brother doesn't want someone in there. Well, I was going to say, they don't want someone in there that looks too much like every other person, acts like every other person. To some degrees, you do. I mean, you got to have a few people in there that seem like the everyday guy type person as well, but they like their characters, right? And so make sure you figure out what makes you stand out and emphasize that when you're trying out for the show. All right, let's see. I'm so far behind, guy. So Brazil does it like Big Brother 1, Ma's asking. Yeah, as far as I know, I think so. I'm pretty sure. All right, let me just scoot down. Cliffmate, Johnny. All right. It's funny. Because I was in the house and I actually heard the diary room at one point say, Cliff, what do you have to say to your Cliffomaniacs out there? And I started laughing a little bit. It's like, Cliffomaniacs. And they said, it may be a thing, Cliff. And so I was like, okay, well, that's first time I'd heard that. I mentioned the word Cliff Notes, and then they started using that. So I didn't know if that was actually a thing or not. But the Cliffomaniacs I heard, I thought that was pretty cool. All right, let's see. I see. Wants an extra Cliff Notes for your birthday because your birthday is on a Saturday. Okay, Don. Now I get it. Okay, maybe we can make that happen. Although I got to say, I hope by April 24th, COVID looks like it's getting better and better. I really hope I'm out eating a fancy dinner somewhere with the family and celebrating my birthday. So Cliff Notes may have to watch. I don't. Maybe I'll broadcast it live from Olive Garden, wherever I am on that particular night. I'll give y'all a little insight into to a family celebration of the birthday. We'll see. No promises at all, but we'll see. But okay, that makes more sense. So good. I don't have to worry about an imposter. I had so many imposters when I got out of the house. Instagram, Twitter, all these people had created accounts, and some of them were just being nice, and I didn't have any problem with that as long as it was clear that it wasn't actually me. There were others though that were just brutal. They were saying horrible things. They were trying to charge people for insights or for information or videos and all that, and it's like, oh my gosh. So as soon as I got out, I had to really go in and report a lot of accounts and try to get them shut down, because I don't want people getting swindled, especially people using my name. Didn't want that at all. So it took a while to get that in hand, but we got it figured out. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna have to do, if I missed some of y'all's feeds, just because I'm trying to keep up, but I may have missed a few of them. Everyone go invade Olive Garden on April 24th. Well, I'm sure maybe Olive Garden will appreciate that. Yeah, I mentioned Olive Garden, but as Parker says, I may be more likely to be at the Whataburger on that particular. It's my birthday. Maybe I'll do Whataburger for lunch and Olive Garden or Red Lobster or something for the evening. I don't. Here's the deal, guys. For my birthday, we've got a tradition in our family. On your birthday, you pick where the family goes to celebrate, either birthday night or if we're celebrating, different night close to your birthday, you go do that. And so the two places I always go is either I'll pick a steakhouse, and there's a lot of them here in Texas, and I kind of float between a bunch of them, but pick somewhere that has a nice steak. Or I'll go eat something a little more exotic. Go to a Thai restaurant or somewhere like that, because those are kind of my two go-tos when it comes to what I choose to go eat on my particular birthday. I like spicy food, so sometimes I'll go somewhere. There's a place called LA Crawfish here in town, which combines Vietnamese food with crawfish, Southern Louisiana food. And what you end up with, the result is crawfish that is so incredibly spicy, and pho that you eat in there. Brilliant. Amazing. I haven't been there since COVID hit. So now you got me thinking. Now I'm already putting my list together of all the places I'm going to go as we start venturing out now, as hopefully COVID settles down a little bit more. Ma says you don't like Red Lobster. Well, here's the deal, Ma. You may not like Red Lobster, but when I started off in my early days working in oil field out in West Texas, and if you look on a map, West Texas is a long way from the Gulf Coast, and the seafood pickings were few and far between out there. Red Lobster was about the only restaurant that we had to choose from if you wanted seafood. And so for us, going to Red Lobster on a Friday evening, that was the top of the world. So yeah, a little nostalgia on there that I spent so many years out in West Texas eating there. And so I can't give it up. Just, there's a lot of nice seafood restaurants here in town, but I still like going to Red Lobster every once in a while. Chiggity saying happy early 30th birthday. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I've celebrated a lot of 30th birthdays over the years, a whole lot. I laugh so much because people, when I was going to that Big Brother house, they made such a big deal about my age. Every person I would talk to, all the producers say, Cliff, what are you going to do? Well, everyone else is going to be so much younger than you in that house. And so, yeah, it's all right. Whatever. I'll deal with it. They all look at me and think, oh, there's that old guy. I don't normally look in the mirror. So I don't see an old guy inside the Big Brother house. All I see are 15 other house guests that are all in their 20s. So for me, I had to constantly remind myself that I was a different age than the rest of them were. Now, sometimes when they start talking about music choices and things like that, it became pretty obvious that different taste in music, different generations and all that. But the rest of the time, I was just another house guest in there. No big deal. Amanda saying, did you retire? No, I wish I could. Hey, if I had one Big Brother, maybe I would have. But no, not yet. Between COVID and oil and gas, things are just, they're down right now. So, yeah, no, but I haven't officially retired yet. Either put me back on Big Brother, let me win, or let me win the lottery. And then Then I'll retire, and then I'll be doing a lot of Cliff Notes. I'll be doing Cliff Notes from places like Bali and Fiji and all necks of the woods, right? How cool would that be? If someone was going to drive through Texas, what areas would you suggest? Good steakhouses, sightseeing, sort of things, Jeffrey. There's so much to see here, Jeffrey. You couldn't do it all in a single trip because you've got the Gulf Coast like Houston. You've got up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which has that's where I grew up. They've got the stockyards in Fort Worth and all that. You've got Galveston, which is right on the beach here just outside Houston. But then you got to West Texas, and you've got mountains and cities, just absolute amazing scenery and everything else, but it's very isolated out there. So I'll just stick here in Houston. If you came down to this part of Texas, which would be fantastic, you've got Houston to see. If you come here during the rodeo, you get to see all of that. We've got Space Center and all of Johnson Space Center, all the NASA stuff. You've got Galveston with the beach. We've got a lot here. We've got more restaurants than probably anywhere else in the world, I feel like. I mean, people in Houston eat out a lot. And I've always heard it's because it's so hot, no one wants to cook. So we've got that. The saying is Texas is a whole nother country, and that truly is the case down here. But yeah, you've got a lot to do here in Houston. So come on down. I'll give you a whole list of things to check out. And hey, if you come down here in the fall, you got to go to football games on a Friday night, and you'll see what Texas is all about, because you see the heart and soul of this state in Friday night football games with the high schools. Crosstracks has been to Houston. It's cool. I've been here since 96 or so. I grew up in Dallas-Fort Worth, but I've been here since then. And yeah, Johnny, the rodeo is a lot of fun. Now, this is the second year in a row that's been canceled because of COVID. So we don't get the rodeo, but it's a huge event down here. I mean, you've got all these kids from all over the state, all over the country, showing up to show cows and sheep and turkeys, every kind of animal that you could imagine. Then you've got the actual rodeo itself with everyone doing the bull riding and steer wrestling and everything else, and big old Midway Carnival. There's just a whole lot going on. And Lawrence, you're right. If you're going to come to Texas, the one thing you got to do beyond all else, forget NASA, forget the beach, forget anything else, you got to go to Buc-ee's. And Buc-ee's is just a gigantic convenience store. They have like 400 gas pumps and 300 restrooms, it seems like. Yeah, it's huge. It's gigantic. They've got a 50-foot long counter that serves nothing but 100 different types of beef jerky and desserts and meals. And it's a huge place, and they pride themselves on having the cleanest restrooms anywhere you could stop, which actually is a pretty big deal. So Buc-ee's is huge, and it's on all the interstates as you come into the state, as you come down around Houston and everything. Buc-ee's is cool. Crosstrack saying, I saw a rodeo at Madison Square Garden in New York. It was fun to watch it. All right, here's a little deal. I actually saw that there was going to be a rodeo up in New York. I assume it's Square Garden. And I had told Tommy and Nicole, I said, look, I want to come up there. I want to take y'all to the rodeo in New York. Y'all want to go? And they said, yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. And then everything shut down, so we couldn't do it. But one of these days, that'd be fun. It'd be interesting to watch a lot of folks from the Northeast sitting there watching a rodeo going on. But yeah, it is a lot of fun. Those guys, they're crazy. There's a few events that I would do. I'd jump off a horse and try to tackle a cow, which is steer wrestling. I maybe would do something like that. But riding on top of a bull with a bunch of horns trying to throw me off, nah, thank you. I'm not going to try that at all. Hayden saying, do you play football? Well, not anymore. I don't play. I mean, I'll play flag football with family out in the front yard and things like that. But I played football in high school until I turned 16 or 17. And then I decided that I liked working and doing other things on the weekend besides. It got very, very full time. When you're high school in Texas, there isn't any off days. Even during the summer, you work out every day. It was full-time job to be a football player. So I stopped about when I was 17 or so. So, but yeah, I played football. And of course, I follow football just like everyone else in the state down here. And yeah, football is absolutely king. All right, let's see. Ma said did swimming in ninth grade. All right, I'll tell you a little story. You never know how these nights are going to go. I'm going to tell you about a story about the one time I did competitive swimming. And it was in college, okay? And I'm actually I'm a very good swimmer, but I do endurance swimming. I swim long distances. I used to swim a mile, 2 mile swims just for exercise and for fun and all that. I love swimming lakes and things like that. So I love swimming, but it's not for speed, it's for endurance. But when I was in college, we had an intramural swimming meet going on where anyone could sign up and compete against all the other dorms. And the dorm I lived in tried to compete in every single event because we would get points for signing up. And at the end of the year, whichever dorm participated the most was considered the king, the championship dorm and all. And it was a big deal for us back then. So they said, hey, Cliff, sign up for swimming, the swim meet. I said, yeah, sure. I swim all the time. So I signed up and I don't know, 50-meter crawl or something. I don't remember. It was a 50-meter freestyle, something like that. So they said, go. I jumped in the water and I did the dive and it started off fine. No problem at all. But here's the deal. When I do endurance swimming, it's long, steady strokes. You come up every time you take a breath of air, then you go back down. I didn't realize that you don't do that when you're doing fast speed swimming. So I'm coming up, I'm taking a stroke, and every stroke I'm coming up, taking a big breath of air over and over again. I get down one way, I come back halfway to the other way, and I start hyperventilating because I have breathed so hard, so fast, taking a breath every single stroke. So I ended up just almost drowning in the middle of, forget finishing the race. I'm sitting there trying to stay afloat because I'm hyperventilating in the middle of the swimming pool. So eventually I'm able to bob a little bit and get over to the side and catch my breath. But yeah, not my finest moment. I'm not a speed swimmer, but yeah, so that's my one expertise with swimming. I didn't swim in high school or club swimming or anything else. And so, Ma, good luck to you, but don't ever expect to see Michael Phelps. I ain't. And I learned that the hard way. But you know what? I did that in front of an entire gymnasium, or what do you call it? Natatorium, I guess is for swimming. Whole natatorium filled up with people watching and cheering, and they're all laughing at the guy in the middle of the pool that can't even make it there and back without petering out. So I learned early on that, hey, you got to laugh at yourself. And I guess that worked well for me in terms of Big Brother. By things like that throughout my life, by the time I got in there, it's like, yeah, you can't embarrass me. Whatever. It's just a game. I'm not going to be embarrassed by anything that happens in there. All right, what else? Did you go to Gillies or was it before your time? Tim's asking. Tim, it wasn't before my time, but it was before my time here in Houston. So I watched Urban Cowboy. John Travolta back then was such a big deal. But the time I was still up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Gillies was down. Where Gillies is located isn't but just a few miles from where I live now. It's just up the road a little ways. And my wife grew up in Houston. She's been there multiple times and all of that. So, and I still drive by every once in a while where Gillies used to be. So no, I never went. But if I'd been down here, I probably would have gone a few times. It was huge. It was a big deal. All right. So what else is going on? Let me look through the comments and we'll see. Hey, Mom. I didn't know she was out here. So welcome to that. Endurance swimming seems like the thing I would do. I love endurance swimming. I've always enjoyed it. Jumped into a lake once in Louisiana. Jumped right in amongst all these fishermen and everything else and swam across the other side. I've told this story, sorry. It's just me. But jumped in, swam across the other side where my grandparents were at. And when I get there, they're screaming and hollering, saying, why'd you jump in the water there? Well, I wanted to swim across the lake. And I said, well, you jumped right in amongst all the alligator hunters. I didn't. I thought they were fishermen. No, they're hunting for alligators. I jumped right in the middle of all of them because the gators out there everywhere. So my brother and I were swimming. And all I got to say is that time I was glad I was a little bit faster than my brother because even though neither one of us got bitten or taken under, I knew at the end that because I was a little ahead of him, if something horrible had happened, it wouldn't be the gator nibbling on my toes. It would have been his as well. So that day I was happy to be just a little bit faster. But now I love the endurance swimming. It's just a very relaxing, very quiet, isolated. It's like being in a flotation tank or something, except you get a little exercise out of it as well. So yeah, that's my thing. All right, let's see. What else? I thought I saw something. Where was that, Ashley? So I'm sorry, I missed a comment here or there. Let's see. So yeah, Mickey Gillies. Cliff must have dreamed of Whataburger in the Big Brother house. Yeah, Jeffrey, I was ready for any kind of food when I got there. I mean, it was fun. So yeah, I love my love my Whataburger. As soon as I got back, before I dropped off, I got home at the airport. Got in the car. We stopped at Whataburger before we went on home, and perfect. Loved every bit of it. So all right, now a story. One more story I'm going to tell you. Talk about swimming. I'm not the speedster at all, but we do have a speedster in our family. I've got a niece by the name of Ashley, and she's a synchronized swimmer, and she also competes for her water polo team for her high school team. You're talking about a brutal sport, an endurance sport. I mean, it's one thing to swim a couple of miles, but to be fighting in that water, because those water polo pools, you can't touch your feet at any time, man. So you're having to just tread water the whole time and compete and everything else. And so, so props to my niece Ashley. Synchronized swimming that she does, and the water polo, is just the athleticism that's involved is pretty incredible. So, so that's pretty cool. I'm gonna try it one of these days. Maybe I could probably do some synchronized swimming, and I bet I could do that on TikTok and get it to go viral soon enough. Don't you think? I have a feeling if I'm doing synchronized swimming and I stick my feet up out of the water, the rest of my body's just going to sink right down to the bottom. There may not be a whole lot of grace. I know there's not going to be a whole lot of grace in any kind of synchronized swimming I do, but it'd be a little fun to do anyway. Could you take us on a live stream walking tour of Houston one Monday? Lawrence, I may not do as part of official Cliff Notes because it's dark here. I mean, and everything is so spread out here. Yeah, you'd see me in a car for 45 minutes and you get 5 minutes of me showing off something. So I think rather than doing a walking tour live, it'd be much better of going around showing clips of everywhere instead and pulling it all together. This is a spread out city. There's 4 million people here and all that. And if I go from here to the other side of Houston, it's an hour and a half, 2 hour drive. So yeah, we'll do it like that, because you don't want to see me in a car for an hour driving along, because that's kind of boring. You'd get to hear my music choices, but yeah, that'd be a little bit boring. But maybe I'll consider that. Be a Houston representative. I've been here long enough. I know the ins and outs. I know the cool places. This is March and April are kind of Texas Independence months. It's where a lot happened. March 6th, the Alamo fell, so we just got through remembering the Alamo. March 2nd, we signed the Texas Declaration back in 1836. April 21st, so coming up, San Jacinto, the battle where we defeated Mexico and won our independence. And they've got a huge San Jacinto monument that's just part of Houston, just outside the city limits, just a little bit. And they've got a big tower, monument to it. It's bigger than the Washington Monument by a few feet, because we do everything a little bit bigger down here. So they always do recreations of the fight for independence things. It's really cool to go to. So maybe I'll do some of that one of these days. I'll be a Texas ambassador. How about that? Jeffrey saying, be disappointed if I found out Whataburger was more like Burger King than something special. Yeah, you're not going to find that. They cook it your way. I've always heard them say there's like 30,000 different alternatives you can get with the jalapenos and peppers and everything else. So it'd be cool. All right, Jeffrey, do you recall which lesser known country singers you mentioned during Cliff Notes while in the Big Brother house? I heard you say at the time, couldn't remember which ones they were. Well, the big one was George Strait. I mean, he's the king of country and all of that, but who else? I got a couple for you. Robert Earl King is kind of I don't know what you call him, Texas dirt country. He's a balladeer. He sings a lot of those kind of songs. Jerry Jeff Walker, a little old school, but he sings a lot of he sings a lot of songs. Mr. Bojangles and Viva Terralingua is his album. Desperado's Waiting for a Train. He's got a lot of them. So Jerry Jeff Walker, Robert Earl King. Here's one, Clint Martin, which I know you probably never heard of. He's actually a cousin of mine that does some singing. Who else? Cody Johnson is another great one. There's a lot. Look up Texas, and of course Garth Brooks has kind of transcended into the pop side of music as well. But those are all good. If you ever want to just get some cool Texas singers, look up Red Dirt Country. Red the color, dirt the material. Red Dirt Country is what they call kind of the backwoods, more to the roots type country music, and I love all of those. All right. Let's see. Did I ever see the series Mike Judge Tales from the Tour Bus? No, I haven't seen that, David. Where's he at? I mean, what country or area is he doing it from? Do that. Parker, do you like Church's chicken? I love all kinds of chicken. Yeah, I like Church's. There's Frenchie. There's a few of them down here in Houston, and yeah, I love fried chicken. KFC, but I try to stay away from the fried. Go with the grilled a little bit more nowadays. Hayden, have you ever dealt with life-threatening hurricane conditions? Yes and no. I mean, we've never actually had them. I mean, our house is still here ever since we moved here, but we have fled a couple of hurricanes. We had Hurricane Rita, which hit right after Katrina. Katrina hit. All the people from New Orleans fled. A lot of them came here to Houston. And then, like 4 weeks later, we had Rita hit here. And was it Rita or was it Ike? I can't keep them all straight, but we fled that one because we were under mandatory evacuation where we live, and we spent 10 hours, and I made it about 10 miles down the road because traffic was so bad trying to get out. That was a little scary. In fact, on that one, we packed up everything that was important. We pretty much said goodbye to the house. But then when we came back, turns out it turned last minute, and the house was okay, other than some damage, some fences and things like that. But we've fled a couple of hurricanes so far, and I will do that. All right, Angie. Sorry, yeah, I'm behind on my comments. So Angie's saying, don't leave us without some Netflix finds. So maybe we'll finish up the evening with my Netflix finds, because I think I found a good one. We had Tiger King last year. Remember Joe Exotic and all that? It's kind of a weird documentary. All right. Completely unrelated other than title, but forget Tiger King. That's so 2020. 2021 brings you The White Tiger. And it's not a documentary. And it's not, well, it's a little different as well. But no, it's a fictional story. It's based on a book. And it all takes place in India, in Delhi. And it's all about a kid from a very poor family, very poor community, whose ultimate goal in life is to become a driver and assistant for the upper class family that kind of owns their village or controls everything in their village. And it's all about him doing what he has to do to try to get ahead in the world. And there's a lot of discussion about the caste system over in India, and the lower class and caste and the upper caste. And it's just from a touristy, touristy isn't the right word. The cinematography was amazing. It was filmed in Delhi, or I assume it was filmed in India. And just seeing the sights was incredible. I've been to India. I've been to Mumbai, and it was such an amazing city. We'll talk about that later, some other cliff notes. It was incredibly crowded, and I saw the extreme poverty that so many people live in over there. And then I saw people that really live the high life in India. So much depends on where you start off in terms of caste and everything else. And so there's a lot of discussion of that and dreaming, and how do you achieve something when you're a lower caste? Are you limited because of it? It's just incredible. It's fictional. But I kind of feel like it may speak to a lot of maybe what the Indian culture thinks about. I'd be real curious. I'd love to find some people. I have friends that are of Indian descent, but not necessarily lower caste. I'd love to find some people who maybe could tell me, how true to life and how real and how valid is this movie, or is it just something that's done for entertainment and all that. I'd like to think it was somewhat true to life. I mean, there's a lot of sad parts. It's the extreme poverty is kind of rough, but. Yeah, Priyanka Jonas is married Nick Jonas. She's in it, and I think everyone else is. There's the guy, the lead, and I don't know his name right now, but he was amazing. He was incredible in it. So anyway, White Tiger, look it up. It didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. I thought it was going to be a little bit more of a comedy when we pulled it up. I didn't know anything about it. I just saw the description. I thought it was going to be a little more of a comedy. And it turned out to be a little darker than that. But it's just incredible. It's amazing what you find sometimes where you don't. We used to do that when Sharon and I were first married. We'd go to the dollar show, and we would just go in to watch a movie that we didn't know anything about. Said, all right, all we know is the title. Let's see if it's any good or not. And we found some cool ones. We found some that for $1 was overspending. but we do that on Netflix some as well. And so that was check out White Tiger. Let me know what y'all think about it. And Angie, best exotic marigold hotel. I love that. I watched it as well. That's the actors and actresses in that are great. I can't remember who it is, but big time British actors and all. And I don't know. India is so it's so different from what I grew up with, and yet it's so the history behind it. I love visiting India. I love visiting China because you see a culture that is so old and so it's just so unique. But it was it's fantastic. Man, I love both of them. So yeah, best exotic Mary. I know exactly what you're talking about, Angie. It was a good movie. So yeah, y'all check out that one as well. Moss, I know someone born in India. I know I've got a lot of friends, but again, especially, and I've been over there. I've got people working oil and gas, but I'd like to hear what people think that led the privileged life in India and those who led the much less privileged life. I love talking to people that was the best part about working in the oil field international, was getting to visit with people from so many different cultures, so many different countries, and just hearing what their life was about. It's 8:02, so I'm going to shut it down, but I'll always remember sitting in a restaurant on the side of a road. I think it was in Venezuela. We stopped to eat, and I realized while I was sitting at that table that in that among this big group of engineers, we had one American, we had a Canadian, we had a Venezuelan, we had a Cuban, we had an Iraqi, and we had a Scotsman. And so we had 5 or 6 guys, all family guys. We're all just trying to do our jobs, and yet we're all from different countries, different cultures, and everything else. And I'll never forget the Iraqi guy talking about how we all grew up differently. But he smiled and he said, but here's the thing. We all grew up differently, but we all have families, and we all have the same objectives, and that we want to take care of our family. We want to do everything that's best and make sure that they're taken care of and they have all the opportunities in the world. And so six dads that all got pulled together for the love of family. And it just reminded me that no matter where we start, we all still have some of the same objectives, and we're not that far apart, even when you come from completely different cultures. So my little pondering philosophical moment for the evening. And with that, I will shut it down, guys. Y'all have a fantastic week. Man, it's springtime down here. So I'm getting ready to do gardening and some things like that. We'll talk about that next Monday. But guys, y'all have a fantastic Monday. Fantastic rest of the week. Challenge is still going on. We didn't even talk about that, but I dropped another recap of episode 12, I think, of the challenge. We'll have another one on Wednesday. So if you're watching that, check out my recap. Otherwise, I will see you on Monday, if not earlier. Have a great week, guys. SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. Bye. Bye, guys. If I can figure out how